Come experience wellness as we journey together. The 40-Day Wellness Challenge.
All right, welcome everyone. All right, glad to see so many faces and looking forward to what the afternoon and evening have in store for us. So just welcome. Thank you for braving the elements, braving the weather. I know it's pretty good today, but it is a little cold. So thank you again for your participation today. If you don't remember me, my name is Ero Ochoa, and I'm one of the team leaders, Team 2. And I just want to, again, welcome you and lead us in a prayer before we get started today. Okay, so if you will bow your head. Heavenly Father, gracious Father, thank you for bringing us together today and continuing our learning journey through this wellness challenge. Thank you for lining up so many volunteers and people who want to help one another, to guide, to instruct, to support, and together becoming stronger, learning your principles that align to you and the wellness that it brings to us, our families, and those around us. May you bless this day. May you bless us in our journey and continue to open our hearts and learn and implement those new ideas and practices as we challenge one another with your support and being able to give us success. So in these things we pray. In Jesus' name, amen.
All right, everybody stand up. Stretch. Did you have a good week? How many of you did the exercise at 6:35 in the morning? Raise your hands. How many of you came to the 6:30 morning Bible devotional talks? A lot of you. Saw a lot of you. How many have a good first week? How many of you accomplished every single SMART goal you set out? Okay, we have some overachievers. Good job. All right, you guys have 60 seconds. You need to meet 2 people you don't know and remember their names. You will be quizzed. Go. You will be quizzed. "30 seconds. We're testing your short-term memory here and your friendliness. All right, 10 seconds. Everyone's done ahead of time. All right. The first 5 people that stand up and can tell me 2 people they met get a prize. Let's see 5 people stand up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Stop. Everyone else sit down. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. Tell me who the 2 people are you met. 3 people. No, stay standing. All right. Irene, Veronica, and Robert. Did he get it right? You guys verify? You verify he got it right. Good. All right. Who did you meet? Michael and Gabby. Is she right? Good job. And introduce your name to the whole group. Tell everyone your name. Charlene. All right. And in the back?
My name is
Gus. Where are you from, Gus?
My pleasure to talk to
Carmen and John, did he get it right? Yes. Did you know him before? Uh-oh. All right. Who did you meet? Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Cindy and Edith.
Cindy, is she right? Edith, she got your name right? Good job. And our final winner? Cindy and Michelle. Verified? Verified. Good. Yes, I hope you guys are meeting lots of people here in your groups, outside your groups. We're going to have extra activities. Keep connecting, keep encouraging. And who can tell us our first principle we covered the first night? We have one prize left that fell out of a bag. Anybody know the first principle of our covenant principles? I'll give you a clue. It starts with a C. What? Choose covenant relationship with God. What does that mean? It's a long phrase, but it means God is our support, and walking with Him, kind of like a marriage relationship, He's going to get us through everything in life, both our physical as well as spiritual salvation. So you find someone for that orange. What was our second principle? You guys remember who spoke last Saturday? Doctor de Trinidad. Yes, Josias. He talked about mirror neurons. You guys remember that? What did he talk about? I'll give you a clue. It starts with an O. Almost. Optimize environment. Now, why isn't it make your environment perfect? If you were creating an acronym, why wouldn't you just call it M? Make your environment perfect. Hopefully, some of you read the Bible lesson studies this week. Because we're in a fallen world, you can do everything you want. You can't change your genetics. You can't change your parents. You can't change the decisions of the people around you. You can't change the oil spill. You can't change the chemicals. So optimize means make your environment as beneficial as possible, but you can't make a perfect environment. This is a fallen world. So we try to control the things we can control, and we unfortunately have to deal with the things we can't control. But what did he talk about? How can we optimize the things that we behold? Everything we see, taste, touch, hear, smell, the people we surround ourselves with, the things we focus on, these things become a part of us. They influence us. They help us develop our lifestyle, our habits, and that becomes our character. So an excellent talk last week. And tonight we are very fortunate to have Dr. Beatrice Kastrati speaking to us on valuing rest and relationships. Dr. Kastrati has a wealth of experience. She did medical school in Ulm University, right? In Germany, a very prestigious medical school out there. She's been director of ADRA in Albania, which is a government organization, non-profit organization in Albania. She's led the Ministry of Health in England. Many, many hats. Very, very experienced physician who's going to be speaking to us tonight. And we're also blessed that she knows our pastor very well. So we're going to play a video, and then she will be speaking on tonight's topic.
Okay, that was nice. To be honest, I did not remember the first two subjects, so I'm gonna have to. But I'm excused. It's my first time at the Wellness Challenge, so next year I will remember the acronym. So I have to admit, my resolutions for the Wellness Challenge were purely mental health. But unfortunately, I have to type in the password in the extended display. There we go. My beautiful daughter at the zoo. Okay, so my resolutions for the Wellness Challenge this week, first week, right? I thought, let's stay small, let's do something achievable. Mental health, that should be okay. So I thought, I'm always so tired. My resolution was to go to bed earlier and to actually be ready and to lie down and to close my eyes at 9 p.m. every night. I did not manage that on any night at all. I tried, but I have to say I'm going to blame my family. I was ready, they were not. So, I'm good. But basically, this is the problem when you have a family, right? You have all these resolutions, but when you're not all pulling on the same strand, it's difficult. So if you have a spouse at home that does not subscribe to the Wellness Challenge, you have a real challenge, right? So just let's make sure that we all subscribe to the same goals, right? Or at least similar goals, so we can do this together. Well, tonight we're talking about relationships and about rest. So, of course, it's very fitting that it's the day of rest. It's the Sabbath for us. So, day of rest is great. And this is when we're cultivating our relationship with God and with each other as a community. And that is beautiful about the Sabbath. But let's talk about the practical bit of rest. Let's talk about sleep, right? And we know we have some good habits and some bad habits, and some good sleep habits and some bad sleep habits. And I'm just going to ask you guys, have you slept well last night? Yeah, I see some nodding, I see some shaking their heads. Let's say, out of 7 nights, how many do you sleep through? No, not so many, right? 4, yeah, that's not so many, but it's more than half, so that's okay, a bit better. But it's difficult to sleep, isn't it? Like, it shouldn't be so hard. What makes sleep so hard? I mean, because you don't have to do anything, you just lie there. So what is so difficult about sleep, right? So let's talk about it. Sleep is called sleeplessness. It's obviously called insomnia. So it's a very fancy word. What is insomnia? We say, I suffer from insomnia. But it has a very clear definition there. So if you have trouble falling asleep, or if you have trouble staying asleep, or if you have trouble getting good quality sleep. So you sleep, but not well, and you're still tired. Chronic insomnia means that for 3 nights per week, if you don't sleep for 3 nights per week, that's already chronic insomnia, and if that goes on for longer than 3 months. Okay, so we all go through times when we can't sleep well, when we're worried and we're tossing and turning, when there's stuff going on in our lives. But when this is going on for longer than 3 months, then we actually have to do something about it, right? So that is insomnia. So insomnia happens when there are changes in our lives, right? So when there are things coming up, like a big international move for our family, I didn't sleep for months, right? But it could be environmental changes, like when something's happening outside, or when it's too hot or too cold. Can be, of course, medical issues, very important, or, if you're changing medications, that can also lead to insomnia. So insomnia means you're tired all the time, but you can't sleep. So that's it. Now, there are plenty of hormones and substances involved in sleep, but I'm just going to focus on 2, because why should I bore you? We're going to focus on the sleep hormone, melatonin, and the wake hormone, cortisol. Now, melatonin is a great hormone. It's perfect, right? It's really helpful to make you sleepy in the evening and to help you sleep through. But it's also a very skittish hormone. So melatonin is a little bit tricky because if you scare it, it will go away. And then it won't do the trick anymore. So it will not make you sleepy if you scare it. So melatonin only, or not only, but melatonin gets expressed in your body and gets put in your bloodstream with darkness. So when you dim the lights in the evening and you wind down and things get quiet, that's when the melatonin goes like, oh, I can come out. This is great. So that's when melatonin comes out and helps you get sleepy. Now, if you're like me, I love indirect light. So I don't like looking at light bulbs. I mean, this is bad, right? so all my lamps in my house, I cannot see the light bulbs. They have to be indirect, so I have to put them towards the ceiling or towards the wall, or I have to have big screens around them so I do not see the bright lights, because that's just terrible for me. But then there are some people who don't mind the bright light, and I have a few friends who are in the brightest light all the time, even at home. Like when I'm at home, the first thing I do, I dim the lights. It's just I can't handle it when it's too bright. But some people, they just love it. But this is what melatonin doesn't like. Melatonin likes dimmed lights. So when you come home and when it's time to wind down, dim those lights, right? Because then you activate your melatonin that helps you get to sleep. Now, cortisol is very different. Cortisol is a hormone that does not get scared very easily. It comes out whether you want it or not. Cortisol is the classic stress hormone. Now, cortisol has a rhythm. It's your body clock. Cortisol rises in the morning and abates in the evening, all the time, at the same time. It doesn't matter, what you're doing, what you're working as. Even for night shift workers, it can get muddled up a little bit, but cortisol is a soldier. It wakes you up whether you want it or not. Now, cortisol classically rises around 3 a.m. And then it gets more and more and more, and then so by around 6, 7, you're ready to wake up. And then during the day, it keeps you nice and, active. And towards the evening, it kind of goes to bed and gives way to melatonin. Now, those people who suffer from chronic stress, or stress in general, they have a higher cortisol level. Now, cortisol, the soldier, helps you stay alive. It's a stress hormone, right? Fight or flight. Cortisol makes you fight. So that means those people who already have an elevated cortisol level in their bodies because of a stressful situation in their lives, they are wide awake when? At 3 a.m. So who of you wakes up at 3 a.m.? There you go, see? 3 a.m. is just kind of a weird time of the night, right? People just say, I always wake up at 3, why is that? My husband wakes up at 3. 3 is when people wake up. When people wake up at 3, that means they're stressed and they have elevated cortisol levels, because that cortisol just goes, boom, I'm ready, let's go. And, that's not great if you don't have to get up at 3, but only at 6 or 7, right? So that's the problem. So you have to address that and kind of address your stress levels in order to get that cortisol level further down so that you don't wake up at 3. But this is why people wake up at 3, because of elevated cortisol levels. It's very simplified, obviously, and there are many more hormones at play, but it's really these two that wake you up and that make you go to sleep. Now, when we go to sleep habits, and today Julian is not here, so I can go for it, we're kind of opposites. We have very different sleep habits. So I talked about it a little bit earlier. I can sleep anytime, anywhere. So if I would lay down on the bench right here now, in 5 minutes, I'd be gone. And when I go to bed at night, my head hits the pillow, I'm out. You can carry me out the room at night. I will not notice. I'm dead to the world. That's it. And, Julian gets upset at this. He gets mad at me. Why do you sleep so well? I don't know. It's a gift, I guess, because he doesn't sleep at all, right, compared to this. So how do we do this? And the problem is we also have very different habits. And of course, I'm the good girl, and he's the bad boy. So, but you can tell him he knows this. All right, so, but somehow we managed to stay connected for longer than 20 years. We've been together since the last millennium. Fancy that. Despite our sleep habits, and even though that caused quite a bit of conflict. So let's look at those sleep habits. So, of course, when we go to the noise level at night, I never snore. I can't prove it, obviously, but Julian snores terribly, right? So sometimes, and I've heard I'm not the only one who does it. There are other wives who do that. We record and say, see, this is what you did to me, right? And we play it back in the morning. This is how you snore at night. Basically, snoring is something that is, people do that sometimes. Usually snoring, the normal snoring is connected to having a bit of weight, eating late at night. But snoring can also have a much more, bad connotation, because if you have sleep apnea through your snoring, that means you snore, but in between the snores, you stop breathing. That's called sleep apnea, right? So when you snore or when you hear your spouse snore and suddenly they stop breathing and you're like counting the seconds and suddenly they go, that's sleep apnea, right? And sometimes I have to shake Julian, like, breathe, because, he stops snoring. So sleep apnea is something that you should get checked out, because that can be very serious. Sleep apnea has bad consequences. It can cause, or not cause, but, contribute to cardiovascular disease, which is quite dangerous. It can contribute to diabetes and to other metabolic problems. So, when you have sleep apnea and you don't have good oxygen levels in your blood, you don't have good oxygen levels in your brain. So that's not great, because your brain is very active at night, right? Your brain needs that oxygen to work. Your brain needs that oxygen during the day as well. And of course, your heart needs the oxygen. So if you have sleep apnea and you don't get enough, what happens? During the day, you're extremely tired because you actually didn't sleep well. And of course, you are sicker and you don't feel rested, you don't feel well. And if you have underlying problems like cardiovascular disease, that can get much worse. So make sure you have that snoring checked out, okay? Now, exercise. Of course, I'm the good girl. Why do I sleep well? Because I don't exercise, like, in the gym or anything, but I move more. I can't make a conscious decision to move. I walk to work, because I'm very fortunate I live close by, but I make sure that rain or shine, I walk. And I also make sure that after lunch, I walk. And I also make sure that I walk home, and I take a bit of a turn around the house before I go to bed. I just make sure that I stay active and upright. I do have a sedentary job. I sit in the office, but I also have a standing desk, because sitting is the new smoking. So I try to stand up ever so often, and just to make sure that my body is not all the time sitting down. Now here's the thing. Julian is very industrious. He loves work, but his work is, of course, a lot on the computer, because he's studying, he's preparing his sermons, he's, communicating, and he's sitting down. And the problem is he is hyper-focused, and he doesn't stand up for hours. So he's just sitting and sitting and sitting. And when I come home from work, walking, all happy, oh, did you see the beautiful sunset? He gets mad at me. You walk all the time. Why didn't I walk? And I said, I don't know. You just make a decision, put a reminder, make a decision to walk and do some sort of exercise. Don't get mad at me for doing it. you got to do it yourself, right? So exercise actually helps your body to move and to become tired. And of course, if you do that exercise during the day, that helps your body to know that it is daytime. Because if you stay sitting all day, how is your body supposed to know it's day or night? Your body doesn't know that. Your brain does, but your body doesn't. So you need to tire your body out. And I'm telling you, if you're not an exercise buff like me, any step that you take more than yesterday is good. Any minute that you exercise more than yesterday is good. Okay, so 10 minutes is better than 0 minutes. 20 minutes is better than 10 minutes, okay? So just don't get discouraged. Oh, if I don't get my half hour, I won't do it at all. No. That's the wrong kind of thinking. Make sure you do any kind of movement at all. Actually, there was a study with business people who were sitting in the office most of the time. And so normally after you have lunch, right, you have a blood sugar spike because your body is digesting the food. But if you exercise right after lunch or if you take a walk, that blood sugar spike is a little bit lower. So those business people that did not have the time to take a walk, they were told, okay, after your lunch, you just go and you wiggle your feet under your desk. And even that feet wiggling brought down the blood sugar levels. Now, I find that really interesting because that means any exercise at all is helpful, all right? So do exercise. Now, of course, here's a little caveat, because if you do vigorous exercise in the evening, you wake up your body, and you don't want that, right? You scare the melatonin away, and we don't want that. So melatonin needs you to be a little bit at rest. A nice evening walk in nature is okay, but vigorous exercise after 9 p.m. is probably not so good, all right? So careful with exercise, but make sure that during the day you move more. And then, of course, there's screen time. The good old screen. Now, what do you use your phone for? To make phone calls? Not really anymore, right? I mean, this is the one thing that we don't use our phone for anymore. It's just we don't use it, right? I mean, when was the last phone call I made? That was sometime day before yesterday. I use it to text. I use it to read. I use it to email. I use it to browse the internet. I use it to work sometimes. But I don't really use it for what it was originally intended. So we're quite a lot on the screen. So especially at night, I mean, when we read, we don't read a book. I mean, I have my e-reader, right? I have my Kindle, and that's on my phone. So of course, we spend a lot of time on the screen. But what else is a screen? The TV is a screen. The computer at work is a screen. Everything is a screen these days. And screen time, unfortunately, is not great for the brain because computer screens especially, they have this special blue light that gets emitted by those pixels, and I'm not a technology person, so I don't know exactly what wavelength it is, but it is not good and it wakes you up. Blue light is bad for the brain, and you need to make sure you dim that screen. Now, I'm not saying which phone brand I prefer, but obviously Julian and I have opposite phone brands that do not get along. But now, of course, mine is way better than his. And because my phone screen is very dimmable. I can dim that screen that you can hardly see it's on. And that is good, because when I read in the evening, I dim it, because I'm not going to scare that melatonin away. Now, when Julian reads on his phone in the evening, his phone screen is so bright. I don't understand how it does not burn his eyeballs in the sockets. It is really terrible. I said, dim it. And I said, it is dimmed. But that particular phone brand can't be as dimmed as mine. So make sure you find a phone or an app or anything that dims that screen, because you don't want to scare the melatonin. Now, of course, screen is also TV, when you watch TV at night. And last time, it was very good that in the last presentation, we talked about telenovelas, because when you watch TV at night and you watch something exciting and you don't know how it's going to end, and then you have to go to bed and you're like, why? So, of course, try not to watch TV that is very exciting or very scary, because how are you going to sleep after that, right? I mean, there are some people, but I'm not one of them. So try to really calm down, okay? And read and dim that screen. Now, at night, when you wake up at 3, what do? You pull out the phone. Very good, you pray, that's great. But you pull out your phone, right? And you start reading, or playing solitaire in Julian's case, which is not great, because it's, again, screen time, right? So the one thing that doesn't let you sleep, you do when you can't sleep. So here's something that we need to think about, okay? So do something else, and we'll get to that in the end. Now, of course, a messy bedroom. Sleep hygiene. Sleep hygiene is a technical term that does not refer to personal hygiene. It refers to the environment we build, the optimized environment that we build around us to make us sleep. Now, a tidy bedroom, of course, is everybody's dream, but we have two sides. I make sure that Julian's side is always away from the door, so when you go in, you don't see his side, first of all. But my side is always nice and empty and tidy, of course. But a bedroom needs to be for sleeping. So it's very interesting, because in the German version, so in German you don't say bedroom, because it doesn't mean anything. It just means there's a room with a bed. In German you say sleeping room. And I think that's more logical, because it's a room that is specifically made for sleeping. So we have to go back to the basics, guys, here, because we have to be honest with ourselves. The bed is not for eating. Bed is not for sleeping. The bed is not for snacking, and the bed is not for work either. The bed is not another surface to pile your laundry. The bed is a sanctuary. This is where you sleep. Nothing should be on that or in that distracts you. Because here's the thing, and I don't know if you know the secret, but the brain is pretty dumb. You might be very smart, but the brain as an organ, stupid. Brains think, okay, there's everything on this bed. This can't be a sleeping place. So if I see food on it, if I see laundries and socks and toys and books and computers on it, your brain automatically thinks, this is a dinner table, this is an office, right? This is a laundry room. But your brain does not connect this with sleep. Only if it shows a nice pillow and a nice blanket, and it's nice and tidy, that's when your brain goes, this is where I want to sleep, right? So you have to be nice to your brain, and you have to actually convince your brain that this place is your sleep sanctuary. So address the mess, okay? So make sure that your bedroom is the sanctuary it's meant to be. All right, so this is very important. We don't do this anymore because, we're living all over the place these days, but it's important that you keep one place just tucked away only for sleep. And of course, food. Yes, it's the wellness challenge, but let's face it, we love food, right? Is anybody here who doesn't love food? No, I thought so, right? Food is great. I love food. I'm a food buff. I love cooking, I love eating, I love thinking about food. I like, looking up new recipes. When I scroll through videos on Facebook and YouTube, mostly I just look at different recipes and what other people are cooking. Honestly, I'm obsessed with food. But here's the thing. Food is great, and it has its time of the day. And that time is not in the evening. So make sure you don't eat 2 hours before bed. Now, sometimes it's difficult, especially when you have a board meeting that lasts until 9 p.m. or something, then of course it's difficult not to eat, right? But make sure you don't eat late at night. So when I come home from work, I make sure dinner is on the table by 6 or by 7 the latest, so I know when it's bedtime, we're done with that. Now, of course, then we have the other half that gets hungry and can't sleep when he's hungry. So he's like, at 10, right, he's like, I can't sleep. I'm going to get something to eat. And I hear the fridge door open, and I know tomorrow morning I'll find a lot of crumbs everywhere. But this is it, right? Even if you say you can't sleep when you're hungry, have a cup of tea, have a glass of milk, have some yogurt, but something that does not put your digestive system in high alert, because here's what food does. It has to be digested, doesn't it? Now your body does a lot of work when your body digests food. So first of all, it gets stored in the stomach, it weighs you down, stays there. Now when you go to sleep and you lie down with a full stomach, what happens? Acid reflux. It's much more likely. Not everybody has it, but it's much more likely that the food just stays there and pushes on you, right? And of course that increases the sleep apnea problem again and the snoring, so you don't want that. Now even if you eat a little bit earlier than that, your food still, after it passes the stomach, goes through all of that, and you hear it going around. So you don't want that either, right? Because in the small intestine, a lot of water gets put into the food, it gets digested, it gets churned about, and only once your food hits the colon, that's when you can rest a little bit, because that's when your bacteria and your microbiome take over, and they do the digesting for you. The colon just transports. So you want the food to go from here all the way to here by the time you go to sleep. So it takes about 8 hours for food to pass, so you can do the math. All right, make sure you eat early enough so you don't do all this whole digesting when you're supposed to sleep, because your body needs to know it's time to rest. And then of course, we don't partake in any of those poisons, and I hope you don't either, but there are some substances, like alcohol and other substances, that make you sleepy, right? Let's face it. I mean, people say if they drink a glass of wine, oh, it just relaxes me. Oh, alcohol, it's just so nice to have a glass of wine in the evening. Now that's a trap, because alcohol or other substances that pretend to make you sleepy don't make you sleepy. They mess with your consciousness, and that's something completely different. Having a messed up consciousness or a dampened consciousness is different from feeling sleepy, because that just means your body responses are dampened, but melatonin is gone, scared away, right? So even those people who say, oh, I sleep so well after I've had some of those things, they don't sleep, they're just knocked out. And that means there's no restful sleep. So we do know sleep has some phases. I'm not going to bore you with REM phases and deep sleep. We know all of this, and you can Google that anyway. But basically, what those substances do, they don't let you go through those sleep phases. They just knock you out and dampen everything, but they don't help you sleep. So it's different when you wake up from a narcosis, after you've had an operation, right? That wasn't sleep. That was narcosis. That was your body being knocked out. And it's the same thing here, okay? You were not asleep. You were just unconscious. And that's something very different. So you need to make sure that you're actually sleepy and not just with a dampened consciousness. So I would just stay away from these things in the first place, because they really mess with you. Actually, there was this scientist. I follow this podcast of scientists and professors about nutrition, and he's a militant guy, and he's really against alcohol, and that is great, because I'm so happy that science is now catching on finally. And he says, if you have to have your alcohol, have it at 7 o'clock in the morning, so that the body has gotten rid of it completely by the time you go to bed. So I think that's a bit extreme, but he's right. You cannot sleep properly and healthfully with any of this in your bloodstream. Now here's the thing. There's one hormone that I want to talk about besides cortisol and melatonin that brings it all nicely together. That's oxytocin. Because if you're in a relationship, if you're in a friendship, it's this hormone that glues you together, that makes you nice and warm and calm, makes you feel all fuzzy inside, because it's the love hormone. Love hormones like oxytocin are great because it gets expressed in your body through hugging. What do we do in church? When we come into church and we say Happy Sabbath, we hug, right? We're huggers, and that's a good thing. So this church is full of oxytocin right now. We're all feeling warm and fuzzy and connected, and that's because of that. So if we feel, stressed or anything, but we have somebody at home, like, my wonderful dear husband, we can calm each other down through that. Now, I like to say intimacy is into me see, right? So we can share. So whatever makes us stressed or anxious or nervous or worried, we talk about it and we can share it. So if something doesn't let us sleep, we can turn to each other and we can say, you know what, let's talk about this. Let's talk this out. And this is important in a relationship, that you can talk about things that don't let you sleep. Because, let's face it, we're not just not sleeping because we're doing it wrong. Most of us don't sleep because we have problems, and sometimes very real problems and very real worries. Now, it's great if we can turn to somebody, pick up the phone and talk to a friend, or turn to our spouse and actually talk things over. We can carry each other's burdens, and this is what helps us sleep, right? This is what we do. Now, there are some traps, of course, in communication that you need to be aware of, because when I am worried at night and I just want to let it go and just talk about it and say, Julian, I'm just really stressed about this thing. He gets alert. He said, all right, let's knock this out. And he wants to give me a solution. Let's make a plan, tam. And I said, no, I don't want your solution. I just want your pity. So, of course, women look for empathy, and men look for solutions, right? So you have to be careful who you're talking to, or you have to learn each other's love language a little bit. So we had a fight the other day when I said, Julian, I don't want to hear what you would have done in my situation. I want to hear, I'm so sorry you feel that way. I want to hear, I hear you, and I'm here for you. I want to hear, I understand. So it's these things that we have to sort out before we turn to each other. But there's one person, of course, we can always turn to when we're anxious and nervous, and that is the person that we should have a relationship with in the first place. And of course, that is God himself, right? So when you can't sleep at night, you pray, that's great. Don't count the sheep, but talk to the shepherd, right? He's listening, he's there, and he understands you, and he's here for us, but he also has solutions for you. So praying, of course, prayer is probably why we wake up in the first place. Maybe God wakes us up because he wants to talk with us. So instead of turning on that screen, maybe we should turn on our listening ears and listen to what God has to say. And of course, God told us to cast our cares on him, right? In 1 Peter, Peter says to his flock, cast all your anxiety on him because he cares for you. And of course, he's quoting King David, who said way back in Psalm 55, cast your cares on the Lord, and he will sustain you. Prayer helps us sleep. Now, how is that possible? Prayer is great. Not just from the perspective that God is, of course, there for us, listens to us, helps us, finds solution for us. But prayer itself, just the process of prayer, helps us calm down. Why? Because when we have a certain problem, and it's just in our head, it's big, it's huge, it's terrible, it's terrifying. And once we speak it out, we have to organize it. And once it's spoken out or written down in a journal, it doesn't look so big anymore. It's very interesting. It became manageable because it came from here out there. And that's a good thing, right? It puts things in perspective. Now, when we pray, we also confess our sins, right? And that means we put things in perspective because we recognize our own part in this. Once our problem is only in here, everybody else is at fault. But once we've spoken it out and we listen to what we're actually saying, we realize, yeah, maybe I have a part to play in this too. And it helps us be honest with ourselves. And once we've spoken it out, and once we've given it literally away, we've taken our cares and given them to Jesus in his hands, it's not gone, but it's not our problem anymore. It's God's problem now. Now, if that doesn't make you sleep, I don't know what does, right? And that is beautiful. If we can just give things away and we say, you know what, God, this is my problem. Here is your problem now. And that is what we can do because he cares for us. Now let's get a little bit more concrete and let's summarize and see what we can do to sleep better. Okay, you ready for this? Let's retrain the brain. Okay, remember the brain, you are very smart, the brain is very dumb. Okay, so you have to retrain the brain. It's like a little dog that goes, I want to be awake, I want to think. But the brain actually needs to be trained to be calm. All right, so make sure you have rituals. Go to bed every day at the same time. Whether you're sleepy or not, it doesn't matter. Your brain will eventually catch on. This is the time the lights are out. Full stop. If you say, oh, I'm not tired, so I'm not going to bed, you're training your brain to stay up. But if you say, I'm not tired, but I'm going to bed anyway, you're training your brain, this is bedtime, time to shut down. Now, prepare for bed. Remember, you don't want to scare that melatonin away. Dim the lights. Make sure you prepare your environment to make it a calm, a nice sanctuary environment. Eat only light supper, 2 hours before bedtime, not any later. If you have to have something, sure, have a cup of tea. But, take it easy. Dim your phone screen, or actually read a real book. I have to tell you this, when we moved house, the most heartbreaking thing is I couldn't take my books. We have over 500 books. And the moving company said, you know what? These are 10 boxes just with books, and they're all very heavy. Do you really want to fill your half container that you've got with us with books? So I looked it up, and I could find every single one on the e-reader. So I thought, okay, fine, I'm leaving them behind. But it was heartbreaking because I left my best friends behind, right? So now I'm reading those very books that I had to leave behind. I'm reading them on my phone, okay? But this is just what it's like these days. It's the 21st century, I get it. I'm old, but yes. Let's read those books on a dimmed screen, okay? Make sure you dim the screen as much as you possibly can. Then, of course, keep your bedroom for sleeping tidy, cool, and calm. Don't do anything else in it, but train your brain that this is your sleep sanctuary. Cast your cares on Jesus. Make sure you give everything that worries you to him. Make it his problem. It's not your problem anymore. He cares for you. And then this is something that I say and that Julian does not like. Sleep is a decision. I know that sounds weird because I just can't sleep. No, you can. You decide it's time to sleep. It's discipline. It takes some time. When you switch off those lights, that's it. Lights are out, eyes are shut, you sleep. You can train your brain to do that. It takes time, it takes discipline, it takes the same ritual every night for at least 3 weeks, 40 days, and then you can do it. Now, just to help you a little bit over getting sleepy, what should you eat in the evening? Well, there's some light things that help you sleep. Obviously, it's magnesium-rich foods. It's foods that are rich in other substances that help you calm down and help the body calm down and help the digestion calm down. And that is, of course, milk for those who enjoy dairy products and who don't have any allergies. A glass of milk works wonders. That's great. Cinnamon. Cinnamon tea is very nice. A glass of milk with cinnamon is also very nice. Cinnamon actually helps you digest your food more easily and it breaks down sugars. So have a bit of cinnamon in the evening. And then, of course, honey. Honey is very calming, very beautiful, very sweet, so you don't need that much of it. So a cup of tea with some honey works wonders. And yogurt. Yogurt is great. It's a miracle worker because it's a probiotic. You're adding bacteria to your body that help you digest the food that you ate. So actually, you don't have to do so much digesting because the bacteria will do it for you. So probiotics actually are great, especially in the evening. And then, of course, the magnesium-rich things like proteins, nuts, and seeds. A handful of walnuts at night, perfect, very good. Of course, now you can put it all together. A cup of yogurt with a bit of cinnamon, a bit of honey, a couple of nuts in. Perfect night snack. And then, interestingly enough, there are substances in bananas that make you sleepy. Having a good evening banana works for my daughter, and it also works for you. Actually, out of banana skins, you can make tea. You can collect that banana skin and boil it in water, and then you have that as tea, and it actually puts you to sleep because it's very high in potassium, also in magnesium, and it's very nice. It's a good nightcap. And then here's something that you did not know, I'm sure. Something that increases your melatonin in your body, and that is sour cherries. Tart cherry juice or tart cherries increase your melatonin levels. So if you eat cherries during the day or drink cherry juice during the day, that actually gives you a melatonin boost. It's natural melatonin. So think of tart cherry juice if you really think you should need some natural melatonin. I want to stop. I want to finish with something that I really like. And that's something that you can do when you can't sleep at all. It's called progressive muscle relaxation. Progressive muscle relaxation was invented by a guy called Jacobson way back in the last century. But it's beautiful because, to be honest, I'm a little bit conservative and I don't like relaxation or meditation techniques that mess with me, that mess with my head. So I'm not into hypnosis or autogenous training or yoga or anything that messes with how I'm supposed to feel or anybody telling me what I'm supposed to think. You know, it's like, you're feeling all warm and fuzzy now. No, I don't. Leave me alone. So this is me, but, you know, probably it works for you. It doesn't work for me. Now, progressive muscle relaxation is something where I am in control because I tell my body what to do. And I think we could do this together right now. So if you have 3 minutes, 5 minutes, we can all lean back comfortably. And we start with a nice deep breath. And you breathe in, and you keep it for 5 seconds. So, see, that's already very nice. Well done. And now you take both of your hands. I'm taking only one hand. And you make a fist as tight as you possibly can. And you count to 5. And then you let it go. And you focus on the feeling, what it feels like to have your hand relaxed. And then you do the same thing with your feet. You can just pull them up as high as you possibly can. Point with your toes to your nose. And then you let them go. And somehow your legs feel more relaxed than before, right? And you can do that with any muscle group. Okay, so let's try it with the belly. Let's pull it in and make it really hard. Okay, I'm quite chubby, so it's not that hard when I do that. Laughing helps too. Now we let it go. And of course the shoulders are great, so we can pull them up. And we let them go. See? And with a progressive muscle relaxation, we make sure that we feel the difference between tension and relaxation. Now here's what happened to me when I was going through med school. Just last little illustration, sorry. In med school I was very stressed because we had these oral spot tests, right? These pop quizzes in anatomy. Anatomy was very gross because we had to dissect bodies and stuff. And those pop quizzes were right there. So when you have a body lying in front of you and you have a pop quiz, point to that muscle, point to that nerve, that was not only gross, but it was terrifying. So I really had a problem in anatomy. So I trained myself in progressive muscle relaxation because I was stressed during that time anyway, and I did that every night. And when it was my turn for the pop quiz, I just took my hand and made a fist behind my back. And then I let go. Suddenly my whole body was like, whew, and I was fine. And I aced the pop quiz, and it was great because my body had been trained just by this one little gesture, making a fist and letting it go. my whole body had been trained to completely relax. Now that is a really good stress relaxation technique. So I will leave you with that beautiful kitten, because once you've done this, you should feel like that, right? Unfortunately, I'm always thinking I can never be as comfortable as a cat when I sleep, but oh well. So thank you very much. I hope I gave you some good sleep tests and tips to make you sleep better. If not, talk to the shepherd. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kastrati. As we set up our 10-minute nutrition talk, stand up and stretch so you don't fall asleep. Those two names? If not, greet them again. All right, I want to introduce my wife, Erica Lloyd. She is helping coordinate the food. She is a nurse by trade, and I call her my walking brain for everything else. So let's welcome her as she talks about the benefits of legumes and beans.
Well, good evening, everybody. I can tell you that this is the very reason why I haven't been sleeping very well, waking up extra early and stuff, because I don't feel comfortable up front. But bear with me, we'll get through this together. Like Michael said, my name is Erica. I am a nurse, and I enjoy cooking, but mostly it's because I enjoy eating. So, one thing leads to another. And when we are working towards making positive, healthy dietary changes, one of the most healthful things that we can do is just not just focusing on the things that are harmful that we shouldn't be eating, but focusing on the beneficial things that we ought to be eating and replacing those things. When we're limiting fast food, ultra-processed foods, meats, sodas, alcohol, they're all really important for extending our lives and fighting disease, but also adding in healthy nutrition such as fruits and vegetables, whole grains and legumes. They're also helpful to extend our lives and help us to do that by preventing and fighting cancer, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, through their anti-inflammatory effects. And also, when we're feeling full and satiated with all of those healthy foods, then we're naturally not going to be eating as many of the unhealthful, undesirable things that are detrimental to our health. So tonight, we're going to be focusing on one of those things, and that is legumes. And studies have shown that regular daily legume consumption is one of the most important predictors of a long and healthy lifespan. So that's what our talk is about. The federal government's My Plate campaign was originally developed to prompt Americans to think about building healthy meals. And most of your plate ought to be covered with your vegetables and grains, preferably whole grains. We're not talking about processed carbs and things, whole grains. And the rest of your plate is split up between protein and vegetables, fruits and protein. Legumes are kind of special in that they kind of cross over between the protein group and the vegetable group. They're loaded with protein, iron, zinc, just like you would expect in other protein sources like meat, but they also contain other nutrients that are concentrated in the vegetable kingdom, including fiber, folate, and potassium. So you get the best of both worlds without the negative effects. And you're going to be enjoying foods that are low in fat, sodium, and free of cholesterol as well. But don't worry, this isn't some new fad. Eating legumes has been around. It's been a staple in diet since ancient times. In fact, legumes are mentioned multiple times in the Bible, primarily referring to lentils and beans. Beans were one of also the most commonly consumed foods eaten in a Mediterranean diet, as well as in the blue zones, which are areas around the world where people live considerably longer and healthier lives. So here is a few examples in the Bible where it's mentioned. Now, what are legumes, and what's the difference between a bean and a legume? So beans are legumes, but not all legumes are beans. Legumes are a plant that produces a seed in a pod. In the Bible, or in archaic words, they also refer to it as pulse. And a pulse is the dry, edible seed of a legume. So some examples might be peas, lentils, peanuts. Those are all beans, or are not beans, but they are all legumes. So as you can see here, legumes come in all various shapes and sizes. We have lots of different varieties of beans, peas, lentils, peanuts. You can take your pick. If you go to any part of the world, a legume is going to be a part of the diet. Now, legumes are great for a lot of different reasons. They are a low energy density, so that means that they have few calories for their weight, which allows for more filling portions with fewer calories. And that also means that you're going to feel full and satisfied while being able to restrict calorie intake. It also has a low glycemic index, so while it does have a lot of carbohydrates in it, it produces a slower and smaller, more gradual rise in your blood glucose, and that leads to a more steady blood sugar and insulin levels. It's high in fiber. As Dr. Kanyandru talked about before, fiber is really important, and it's only found in the plant kingdom. Accumulating evidence indicates that higher intake of dietary fiber reduces your risks of diabetes, heart disease, certain cancers, weight gain, obesity, diverticular disease, as well as constipation. Higher dietary fiber consumption has been associated with a 37% lower risk of dying from all causes put together. So in a study that was done on breast cancer specifically, there was a 28% lower risk of dying from breast cancer patients, from patients who were actually breast cancer survivors. So they were 28% more likely to survive than people that didn't eat a lot of fiber. In fact, for every 5 grams of increased dietary fiber, there was, which that's really not very much, but there was a 10% increase, or I guess it would be a decrease in your chance of death. Now, to put that in perspective, 5 grams is about a third of a cup of beans, so it's really not very much. Legumes are also high in protein, and they're low in the bad fats and high in the good things. So like your monounsaturated fatty acids, vitamins and minerals, and other things as well. All right, so as far as the daily amount that you should be eating every day, that amount is going to vary based on each individual's weight and age. But that being said, a daily amount of 150 grams, which is about, depending on the type of bean or legume that you're eating, could be anywhere from half to 1 cup of a cooked legume. So that seems to be enough to reap all of the benefits in all the different areas of health. Now, if you guys have been on social media at all, you've heard about anti-nutrients. A lot of, health influencers like to fearmonger, and they talk about lectins and all of these anti-nutrients that are so terribly bad for you, okay? So anti-nutrients are found in legumes. It is true. There are phytates, there are lectins, tannins, protease inhibitors, saponins, oxalates. Now, what are they? What are they going to do? Anti-nutrients are basically plant compounds that have traditionally been talked about being harmful because they do end up limiting your absorption of certain nutrients, being able to break down or digest protein. So that does happen. So what can we do to then limit that? There are things that we can do. Cooking, soaking, sprouting, fermenting, all of those things greatly reduce these compounds, making legumes both safe and nutritious. For example, if you were to soak your beans overnight, that's going to reduce the phytates, the lectins, tannins, and protease inhibitors. But also just cooking for 10 minutes of boiling, that's also going to effectively destroy lectins and other heat-sensitive anti-nutrients. Other options, such as sprouting, will actually activate certain enzymes that will improve the nutrition availability. Fermentation is also another thing that you can do. It also reduces anti-nutrient levels significantly. But you might ask, what about beans that you eat raw? What about those? Say sugar snaps. Well, I'm glad you asked. The immature state of those types of beans actually keeps those anti-nutrient levels low compared to mature legumes, so they're not really something that you need to worry about. But while lectins and phytates and saponins are known for hindering nutrient absorption, they're not all bad. They actually offer some surprising benefits. They act as antioxidants, they boost immunity, they fight pathogens, they reduce cancer risk, they improve your cholesterol and blood sugar levels, and they even aid weight management by slowing digestion. So they make legumes overall a health-promoting food despite these compounds being in them. And as we mentioned, we can reduce their amounts to safe levels and be able to reap both the benefits of getting the nutrients and then also their positive effects. All right, side effects. This is something that when people talk about beans, everybody is worried about. So when you increase your fiber intake, you're going to increase your chance of experiencing bloating, perhaps some stomach pain or gas. Okay, but as we previously discussed, legumes are a high fiber food, and fiber is particularly difficult to digest. It may take your body some time to get used to increased fiber intake, so make sure that you're increasing that gradually, but keep eating it. Okay, your body will get accustomed to it. And in the meantime, the way that you prepare your legumes will make a difference. By pre-soaking and rinsing your legumes prior to cooking, you will not only help to improve their texture, so your final product ends up tasting better, but it will also help to reduce the gas that is produced when your food is being digested. So this evening, for your culinary pleasure and delight, we will be serving a whole food plant-based meal of chili beans served over some roasted potatoes with a sour or a tofu sour cream and a side salad with either you have the option of either a creamy cilantro dressing or a creamy garlic dressing. Both are nut-free. So I hope you enjoy exploring and experimenting with all the different delicious ways that you can add legumes to your diet each and every day. Thank you very much. All right, why don't we bow our heads for prayer? Dear Heavenly Father, I want to thank you so much for all the amazing foods that you gave for us to eat and enjoy, and the ways that they can actually work in our bodies and our lives to improve our health and to help us to regain our health as well. I pray that you bless this meal and for the nourishment of each of our bodies. We ask these things in your name. Amen. Oh, one last thing before I dismiss you all. So the recipes of all the different foods that we've been serving are being posted on the BFF app. So if you haven't yet joined, please do. And then you will find the recipes and the presentations on there as well. So you are all dismissed to go get something to eat.